Social vulnerability in its broadest sense. Social vulnerability is one dimension of vulnerability to multiple stressor and shocks, including abuse, social exclusion and natural hazards. Social vulnerability refers to the inability of people, organizations, and societies to withstand adverse impacts from multiple stressors to which they are exposed. Technical publications and Upthrust for Knowledge Disaster Management 1-43 Introduction to Disasters. These impacts are due in part to characteristics inherent in social interactions, institutions, and systems of cultural values. Because it is most apparent when calamity occurs, many studies of social vulnerability are found in risk management literature. The concept of social vulnerability emerged most recently within the discourse on natural hazards and disasters. To date, no one definition has been agreed upon. Similarly, multiple theories of social vulnerability exist. Most work conducted so far focuses on empirical observation and conceptual models. Thus, current social vulnerability research is a middle-range theory and represents an attempt to understand the social conditions that transform a natural hazard, e.g. flood, earthquake, mass movements etc., into a social disaster. The concept emphasizes two central themes. Both the causes and the phenomenon of disasters are defined by social processes and structures. Thus it is not only a geo- or biophysical hazard, but rather the social context that is taken into account to understand natural disasters. Hewitt 1983. Although different groups of a society may share a similar exposure to a natural hazard, the hazard has varying consequences for these groups. Since they have diverging capacities and abilities to handle the impact of a hazard. Taking a structuralist view, Hewitt, 1997, p. 143, defines vulnerability as being essentially about the human ecology of endangerment, and is embedded in the social geography of settlements and lands uses, and the space of distribution of influence in communities and political organization. This is in contrast to the more socially focused view of Blakey et al. 1994. p. 9, who define vulnerability as the set of characteristics of a group or individual in terms of their capacity to anticipate, cope with, resist and recover from the impact of a natural hazard. It involves a combination of factors that determine the degree to which someone's life and livelihood is at risk by a discrete and identifiable event in nature or society. Types of crisis. Laban categorized 8 types of crises. 1. Natural disaster. 2. Technological crisis. 3. Confrontation. 4. Malevolence. 5. Organizational misdeeds. 6. Workplace violence. 7. Rumors. 8. Terrorist attacks. Man-made disasters. Natural disaster. Natural disaster-related crises, typically natural disasters, are such environmental phenomena as earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, tornadoes and hurricanes, floods, landslides, tsunamis, storms, and droughts that threaten life, property, and the environment itself. Example: 2004 Indian Ocean earthquake, tsunami. Technological crisis. Technological crises are caused by human application of science and technology. Technological accidents inevitably occur when technology becomes complex and coupled and something goes wrong in the system as a whole. Technological breakdowns. Some technological crises occur when human error causes disruptions, human breakdowns. People tend to assign blame for a technological disaster because technology is subject to human manipulation, whereas they do not hold anyone responsible for natural disaster. When an accident creates significant environmental damage, the crisis is categorized as mega damage. Samples include software failures, industrial accidents, and oil spills. Examples: Chernobyl disaster, Exxon Valdez oil spill, Heartbleed security bug. C. Confrontation crisis. Confrontation crises occur when discontented individuals and/or groups fight businesses, government, and various interest groups to win acceptance of their demands and expectations. Technical publications and upthrust for knowledge. Disaster management 2.11 approaches to disaster risk reduction, DRR. The common type of confrontation crisis is boycotts, and other types are picketing, sit-ins, ultimatums to those in authority, blockade or occupation of buildings, and resisting or disobeying police. Example: Rainbow, PUSH's People United to Serve Humanity, boycott of Nike. Crisis of malevolence. An organization faces a crisis of malevolence when opponents or miscreant individuals use criminal means or other extreme tactics for the purpose of expressing hostility or anger toward or seeking gain from a company, country, or economic system, perhaps with the aim of destabilizing or destroying it. Sample crises include product tampering, kidnapping, malicious rumors, terrorism, cybercrime and espionage. Example: 1982 Chicago Tylenol murders. A crisis of organizational misdeeds. Crises occur when management takes actions it knows will harm or place stakeholders at risk for harm without adequate precautions. Lubbinger specified three different types of crises of organizational misdeeds: crises of skewed management values, crises of deception, and crises of management misconduct. F. Crises of skewed management values. Crises of skewed management values are caused when managers favor short-term economic gain and neglect broader social values in stakeholders other than investors. This state of lopsided values is rooted in the classical business creed that focuses on the interests of stockholders and tends to disregard the interests of its other stakeholders such as customers, employees, and the community. It has three stages: precise, acute, chronic and conflict resolution. G. Crisis of deception. Crises of deception occur when management conceals or misrepresents information about itself and its products in its dealing with consumers and others. Example: Dow Corning's silicone gel breast implant. Crisis of management misconduct. Some crises are caused not only by skewed values in deception but deliberate immorality and illegality. Technical publications and upthrust for knowledge. Disaster management 2.12 approaches to disaster risk reduction, DRR. H. Workplace violence. Crises occur when an employee or former employee commits violence against other employees on organizational grounds. I. Rumors. False information about an organization or its products creates crises hurting the organization's reputation. Sample is linking the organization to radical groups or stories that their products are contaminated. Example: Procter & Gamble logo myth. J. Risk management. When a hazard event, such as a drought, flood, cyclone, earthquake or tsunami, among others, occurs, triggering a loss of life and damage to infrastructure. It highlights the reality that society and its assets are vulnerable to such events. When discussing disaster risk management, a disaster can highlight the following in a community. The geographical area where the community is settled is exposed to such a hazard. The society, including individuals, and its infrastructure. Assets and other processes, as well as services which may have experienced damage or destruction, are vulnerable.